BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Welcome to Rice TVX. On today's Rice Report, I am once again joined by the founder and CEO of Quantum Economics, Mati Greenspan. And I will have links down below and above for his first appearance, and I encourage you to check that one out. Today's conversation is going to entail everything from cryptocurrency to economics, bulls and bears, inflation, deflation, and much more. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricecrypto.crypto and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. Plus, you can find my social media links, contact information, get Rice TVX merch coming soon via the shop, and more. If this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, check out and explore my channels. Make sure you subscribe to Rice TVX and Rice TVX 2, both can be found on YouTube. And hit the notification bell to get alerted to new videos. Also, you can follow me on Odyssey and Library, where I have my full catalog of videos plus extra content. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. If you want to support Rice TVX and what I do directly, I have my PayPal, Cash App, plus my cryptocurrency addresses via my Cointree link below in the video description. You can also join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to some of my videos, exclusive content, and more, with 4 different levels of membership, all offering something different. If you are looking to purchase and invest in precious metals, gold and silver are both good safe haven assets to hedge against the financial collapse we are experiencing. Check out Money Metals Exchange. I partnered up with them and you can get a free ½ ounce of silver. Visit moneymetals.com, be a first-time buyer, purchase a minimum of $100, and use the promo code RICE. You get a free ½ ounce of silver, and it's another way to support the channel. I will include links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything I talk about on today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I am joined by a returning guest. This is Mati Greenspan. He is the founder and CEO of Quantum Economics. And I'm going to have links down below for his website. And also, not only that, but for his first appearance. And if you haven't seen that one, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, make sure you're checking out his first appearance. But Mati, I appreciate you coming back on the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks a lot for having me, bro.
No, I always appreciate your insight, man. And you're somebody who, in the crypto space, I've gotten to know a little bit, and we've got a pretty cool relationship. And I appreciate me being able to have this time with you. So thank you for making it, especially at such a late time on your end.
Oh yeah, no worries. I was just on the Twitter Spaces, so
Those are like Clubhouse, the Clubhouse thing.
Yes, it's Clubhouse on Twitter.
Okay. I was thinking about joining up a couple of them, but I haven't had the time at the moment when I saw some things, but I was curious what they were. And that's kind of what I assumed, that they were like Clubhouse kind of versions on Twitter. But
yeah, you get a lot of people, and then you get an open discussion and stuff like that. I think I never got into Clubhouse because I got an Android. So
same here.
Now that they have it on Twitter, so I can actually interact with people, and you could see their history and their who they are and stuff like that, which I think is pretty valuable.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. So the last time we talked was on May the 3rd. So it's been a good, maybe 6 months, like right under 6 months. We're recording this on October the 28th, and I'll have it coming out sometime early next week. But do you mind just really quickly giving a real quick rundown about what Quantum Economics is and what you guys offer over there?
Yeah, so Quantum Economics is a firm for a wide range of financial services, mainly falling into research and analysis, advisory for young projects to help them get started, and money management for people within the blockchain and crypto space. On our About Us page, you can see the team there. We've got about 2 dozen at the moment. Extremely talented individuals. Some of them you may have met before.
Yeah,
And
I just recently interviewed Oz Sultan.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's our head data scientist, and each of them, of course, prolific writers, social influencers, thought leaders within their specific niche of blockchain technology. Just a lot of brain power, a lot of talented individuals that I feel quite honored to be working with.
it looks like the team has grown since the last time I had talked with you, or I just don't remember there being this many individuals.
Oh yeah, we're constantly growing, constantly adding people for sure.
Very cool. Very cool.
We're diversifying into new businesses. We've actually just started 2 new companies. One is called Quantum Expeditions for Bitcoin mining, and the other is called Quantum Equity, which we're building a platform for institutional investors to dip their toes into the DeFi waters.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I want to facilitate 1% of the transfer of wealth from the bond market into DeFi. I think then I can just then I can hang my hat up after that's happened.
I love it, dude. I definitely want to get into some discussions about the bond market because I think the SEC and stablecoins is a good point to talk about that. But I guess what I wanted to ask you before we get too deep into things, and I'm glad that we explained what quantum economics is because I want people to be able to know that right off the bat instead of doing it at the end of the video. But you're kind of known for market updates and insights, and we're at a interesting point in the crypto market, and we're at a very historical point economically, globally in our financial system.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on this bull run that we're currently in? Do you think that we're going to be experiencing what we've experienced in the past, where we have like kind of a 4-year cycle where 2.5 years of that is more bear market, and then we start seeing the traditional bull markets? Or do you think that we could be going into like super cycle kind of situations? So I wanted to kind of get your perspective from your insights and analysis and what you gathered from your team, where you think that we may be heading as far as the bull run is concerned. Like length, is it going to go into 2022?
Yeah. Who knows, man? Who knows? Really. No, honestly, I mean, we've done a lot of research around the Plan B model. We've had two. Actually, it was funny because it was around was it June, July when Bitcoin was testing 30,000 support. We actually had 2 separate institutions come up to us and request research around the Plan B model. Is this really? Obviously, they were panicking. Is this real? We gotta know, because obviously they got their bags and stuff.
And I'm glad you brought Plan B up because I did want to ask you about the whole model as well.
Yeah, so our research, and we did both of them independently. We did both of for the 2 different clients with different analysts on our team involved in each of them. And they both came to the same conclusion. It's basically a backwards testing model, which is going to be accurate given a very wide range of outcomes. So whatever the price of Bitcoin is, in 6 months from now, you can very likely look back and say, "Oh, yeah, look, Plan B was right," because it's there within his matrix. In addition to that, I mean, if you look at his chart, so and especially with the log scale, right, where he uses the entire history of Bitcoin and tries to squeeze, everything from 0 to 10 million or 100 million into one chart. Where's the dot? He has a dot on it, but that dot, it covers a very wide range of outcomes, which can be anywhere between 50,000 or 150,000, and you won't really know because it's just a dot on a chart.
Right. Well, and he's got some really interesting predictions. I mean, he's predicting. I got to go and look at my notes. I know it's 63K for the end of this month, for the closing of October.
Already hit that. Is that the closing price, or is that,
Yeah, I
by
think
the
that's what he's saying is closing, because I was trying to look for the thread, but I couldn't find it on Twitter. Which I definitely encourage people to check out his Twitter account, which is at 1 trillion USD. And he's predicting end of November 98K, and December he's calling for 135K.
Sure.
But beyond that, and his model's been, I mean, we went above 63. Obviously, we hit close to 67 or around 67, and we've retraced back down. Even today, we hit under 60K again. We just popped back up, and then we kind of went back down a little bit, and now we're sitting above 6,000 again. The last time I looked.
The important thing to note whenever talking about graphs and charts is the disclaimer that the financial regulators of SciSec, who have provided me with my financial license, actually forced me to say anytime that I'm talking about the charts, which is past performance does not indicate future results, meaning you cannot predict the future. Nobody can. And if somebody tells you that they can predict the future, they are lying. That's a bold-faced lie. Or to quote the dude from The Wolf of Wall Street, nobody knows if the stock is going up, down, or fucking sideways, especially, at least of all the stockbrokers. But you got to pretend like you know. I stopped pretending a while ago. Actually, I never. It was never my strong suit. Predicting the future, and even this it's just a bit silly to me to see, and somebody can be accurate in their forecasts quite often, but you can't ever say with absolute certainty what's going to happen in the future.
Well, especially with everything that's going on now with the traditional legacy system and, fiat and the US dollar and inflation or deflation. I mean, it's and a good example of that is what took place in March of 2020. I think Bitcoin had went down to about the 3,000 level, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, it did recover, and gold and silver went down. Everything went down. Everything kind of went into the dollar. And then as the dust started to settle, people went more back into their safe haven assets. And then a couple of weeks later, the stock market's hitting all-time highs again. And it just hit more all-time highs. Still keeps hitting all-time highs.
Thank you, Jerome Powell.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it's so crazy. Which, I mean, once we get through the crypto stuff, I want to ask you a few questions about the Federal Reserve and things. But
you got it, man.
So you don't have any clue about how long you're thinking that this run's going to last? If it'll be traditional, if we'll go into a super cycle type situation? Are we just going to have a bunch of small bear markets like in between bull runs, kind of like what we
I don't think that we'll ever see another crypto winter, right? Like 2018, where everything just kind of went quiet. Like 2014, that was Mt. Gox, and then the whole space went dead for like two years, right? And then 2018 the bubble popped. 2018 the bubble popped in Bitcoin, and then the whole like the no coiners are like claiming victory. We had Nouriel Rubini going, "I told you so," and the whole place was just kind of a dead zone. But the fun part was in 2018 that people kept building. Like they didn't care about the price. That was actually, I think, an incredibly bullish event, because when things are popping off the hook, you can't really get much work done, right? You can't build interesting stuff,
right?
And I was working in eToro at the time, and I saw it firsthand. Like the Q4 of 2017 in eToro, I mean, there was nothing being built. All it was is just a scramble to get as many, to onboard as many clients as you could. And that was like a sole focus. And then in 2018, that's when the innovation actually started happening. Like people stopped watching the price, they stopped, doing KYC and stuff like that, and started to actually buckle down and code. and now that we're just in a place that's 100 times, a 100 times greater as far as the infrastructure that's already set up. And now we have diversification within the industries, where it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum and then a bunch of ICO shitcoins. Now we actually have the few of those ICO shitcoins that actually made it turn into real projects.
Yeah.
And we have Ethereum community diversified into DeFi and NFTs and many various aspects. So I think that we've come to the point where the crypto space is much bigger than any one person could possibly even keep on top of. This is why we have so many different analysts in quantum economics. I can't keep on top of everything anymore. Like, it's not the same as it was.
I know what you mean.
It's not possible. I can't. So this is why we have somebody who's watching specifically the NFT market, somebody who's watching the DeFi market specifically, and they can keep on top better of the specific niches. So to say that there would be like some kind of a crypto winter that would affect everything, I think that it's just like so far fetched at this point, because there's just too much. There's just too much out there.
Then you're talking about the traditional kind of 2.5, 3 year bear cycle that we're having.
Well, it's like, there are always going to be bull markets and bear markets, but as long as we're measuring against U.S. dollars. Right. I mean, the Fed keeps printing, so they're putting lots of liquidity into the system, and an increasing amount of that is being diverted into the crypto market because stocks are overvalued. Nobody wants to hold government debt because it's not really paying anything. People look for opportunity, and there's just a shitload of it in the crypto market.
Right. No, there definitely is, man. I mean, when it comes to opportunity, but there's also a lot of speculation as what's going to happen with regulation. And I do want to get into the whole SEC debacle. Do you have any price predictions for Bitcoin? Do you see Bitcoin kind of, and I'll pull this back up. This is the tweet that Plan B put out, where it said there is also a more fundamental reason that we see weakness in June and possibly July. My worst case scenario for 2021, price on chain based August. And it looks like he's saying end of the month, because he's doing the greater than symbol, but I could be mistaking that. But 47K, which is on point in August. September 43K, which is on point. October calling for 63K. November 98K, and December 135K.
Wow. So he's looking for a rocket moon. I think that there's probably a 1 in 4 chance that we break the top here and just continue going. I think that if we do break a new all-time high from here, I mean, 67 is the local top. If we start breaking like 70, that'll just push FOMO and the institutional FOMO, and we know that those guys have deep pockets. Now they have the ProShares ETF, where they can go in through the futures market, and hopefully soon they'll have some physical backed ETFs. But they're finding their bridges, and the bridges are quite this. They're much more established now. So I think that if they do start, if we do start seeing that kind of price discovery into new all-time high territories, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, it's anybody's guess where we might end up after that. But just going based on history, I think that we've seen some 70% move off the lows, right, from 30K to 73K. That's a huge move, and that's within the span of about a month, right?
Right.
And even for crypto, I mean, that's pretty significant, and you would expect at some point that there'd be some retracement. If there is a retracement, I think that we would look to try and find support around the 200-day moving average, which is way down below us at around 45K. I think that the 30K support, I think it would be very difficult to get that far down. But I think that it wouldn't at all surprise me to see a deeper retracement than we've seen already. I think probably 1 in 4 chance that we just pop the top and keep going.
So do you think that we've seen the top, or do you think that we're going to hit 100K and this by the end of this year at some point?
Oh yeah, I don't know, man.
No clue.
I'm just saying, like, these are the probabilities, I think,
Right.
And that's what I kind of go off of. For me, I'm 100% invested in crypto at the moment. I'm not selling anything. So if we go down further, I'm quite comfortable with that. And if we keep going, great.
What are your thoughts? Moving on, I guess, to the SEC stuff. What are your thoughts with the XRP case that's going on? Are you keeping up with that?
Oh yeah, that's bullshit, man.
Do you think ultimately that it'll be resolved in Ripple's favor, and it'll be a sealed case, so that there's no so that there's nothing set for precedents, and they can keep moving forward with attacking other projects in a space?
I don't know how it's going to be resolved. I know that the case against Ripple on Jay Clayton's last day in office, I think that was total BS. And I think basically Jay Clayton, the former SEC chair, basically just farted and left the room. And now we've got Double G, Gary Gensler in charge. And we thought that because he's so knowledgeable, right, about crypto, that he was going to be a lot better for the space, but I don't necessarily think so. And now we see him, they're really shifting focuses here, where if we think about, cryptocurrencies and the war on cryptocurrencies, right? In the beginning, people were sent to jail simply for facilitating Bitcoin transactions, right?
Right.
Like,
not having money transmittal license and
serious. Yeah. People were Ross Ulbricht, he's doing more jail time than El Chapo, like, honestly. And
yeah, I know.
Charlie Shrem went to jail for basically just, BS. Like,
wait, real quick, just a public service announcement. We mentioned Ross Ulbricht. You can head over to freeross.org and sign up for the petition, because they are working on trying to get clemency for him, because he was put in a prison under 30 years old, and he won't actually technically ever get out. And it was all non-violent crimes. He wasn't, as far as I know, had any crimes before that. He had a clean record. So I definitely would encourage people to go sign up for that petition.
They made an example out of him because they were scared of Bitcoin. And
right. No, I know.
Coming down heavy-handed. They said, okay, anybody who's surrounding this Bitcoin thing, we're going to have to come down hard, because they were scared. And that, that sucks for Ross, obviously. And I hope that he does get clemency. I hope that he does get some kind of a pardon going, because that's it's just ridiculous, the amount of the sentence that they gave him.
It was excessive, I think.
But
like you're saying, they were trying to make an example of him.
Yeah, and that was the war on cryptocurrencies then. Now, if you look at what's happening with Wall Street and ProShares and Coinbase being a publicly listed company, Coinbase just taking over TikTok as the #1 app in the world, we've won the battle for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin hill is behind us. It is now firmly in our territory.
But so Bitcoin, but there's still other things in question. I mean, Gary Gensler seemed like he was knowledgeable as a professor at MIT. And he seemed like he had a really good grasp on what everything was about. And now, I'm hearing that the SEC is going to be in charge of stable coins, and Gary Gensler is trying to say that stable coins are a security, because otherwise, if they weren't a security, they wouldn't be under the security. They wouldn't be under the SEC
test, right?
But if it's pegged to the U.S. dollar, and it never increases or decreases by a large percentage. I mean, we're talking 98 cents to $1.03.
No. So the definition of securities that they've been using until now, as according to the Securities Act of 1934, right? Where they I'm sure you've heard people they're clinging to a 100-year-old law. That's basically what it is. Yeah. They're defining them as something that increases in value. Stable coins do not increase in value, and they're not designed to increase in value in any way, shape, or form. So where's this coming from?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that
it makes them
the
seem like
regulators have shifted the war on cryptocurrencies. They've moved on from Bitcoin. They realize that they lost the battle, but they don't really care about that battle because Bitcoin isn't an imminent danger to the U.S. dollar, because Bitcoin can't replace the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency because of the volatility. Now, let's say if you're involved in international business, which I do quite a bit of, you can't make a contract in Bitcoin amounts, right? Because you don't know what the price of Bitcoin is going to be in a year from now, unless you're like
right.
gonna stake your entire business on Plan B's model and try and figure out what your supplies are going to be worth in Bitcoin terms in a year from now. You can't. You need a stable currency in order to do that.
Right.
And at the moment, people can send tethers from one country to another quicker, easier, and cheaper than they can U.S. dollars, like through the banking SWIFT and Fedwire system. And that's pretty scary to them. But what's even more scary to them is the proposition of DeFi lending, which they can't control, right? The Federal Reserve is manipulating the interest rates, right?
Right, but they're going after the centralized entities like your Celsius that are allowing for the staking with a high APY, which is a lot higher than you can get in traditional banking. And right now, it's killing the bond market because the bond market isn't giving a yield. So that's where I was that weird connector, because now they want now you're really affecting things.
I will never invest in government debt. I don't understand why anybody ever would, unless the government debt was providing you with, 5 or 10% a year above inflation. Right now, real yields in the bond market are largely negative, meaning that if you lend your money to the government, you're going to be losing that money over time rather than making money. Whereas in the DeFi market, you're making money, so you've got a nice yield there. And that's scary to them, because what happens when the institutions and BlackRock stops lending their money to the government and they start lending it to DeFi staking pools, and all of a sudden the government is going to have to it just basically goes belly up, and
it's gone to be replaced, and we create a new system. I mean, it's everything that you would kind of hope for when you get involved in crypto with the right mentality. But at the same time, there's a lot of growing pain to get to that point, and for it to be a smooth transition. Because I mean, obviously, it wouldn't happen in that factor. So it's going to be a lot of pain that people are going to be dealing with, and that's kind of like so.
How do you mean? Like, what kind of pain?
Well, I say pain, like economic pain, like the struggles that we're going to have to go through individually until the world starts to be more, we start to repair the world in a better fashion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we see the end of governments as we know it, that could start to create the idea of mega cities and different kind of ideas where you don't have the traditional systems that we are used to.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that could come out of it. But why do you think that the SEC is, or I mean, obviously we're laughing about the SEC and stablecoins.
The SEC isn't anything,
but they're doing it.
Rice. They're the arm. They're not the body. Who does Gary Gensler report to?
I don't know. I don't think it's the president of the United States. It might be
president directly.
I'm saying the president of the IMF, but okay.
He reports directly to the president of the United States. He's Joe Biden's bitch. Okay.
Nice.
So, it wasn't him that started the stablecoin trial. It was actually Janet Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary. She raised the alarm bell first, along with her friend Christine Lagarde over at the IMF, who also is actually probably more knowledgeable about cryptocurrencies than Gary Gensler himself.
She's no longer with the IMF; she's with the European Union.
That's right. The European Central Bank, which is the counterpart of the Fed. And so Janet Yellen raised the alarm, and then Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve echoed her sentiments, and basically, started saying about stable coins how. Then there's like, yeah, Bitcoin is okay, and now we're looking at stable coins because they look like money, but they're not money, and they're outside of our regulatory purview. Now,
but why the SEC? Because I mean, we know that it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why not?
Okay.
I mean, they talked about creating a crypto division, so why not create a new division or find a more appropriate government agency to do this versus the SEC?
Because the U.S. government is broken beyond repair. Take this for example. There's 4 different agencies fighting for control over cryptocurrencies in the United States, right? There's the SEC, who says that Bitcoin is a security because they're regulating securities, right? There's the crime division, who says that Bitcoin is actually money or property because that's what they deal with, right? And then there's the IRS, who says that Bitcoin is an asset, right? Because they want to tax it, right? And then so each of these government agencies basically try to define, because that's in essence Jay Clayton's game when he said that all ICOs are securities. What did he do? He realized that the ICOs in this token market was the future. And he just, in one freaking sentence, raised his position of power and raised his authority over the entire market, right?
Yeah.
So the SEC certainly shouldn't have any regulatory oversight over stablecoins. It actually makes 0 sense. But they're the ones who are now in charge of cryptos, right? So who else is going to do it? Who else has the knowledge, right?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying makes sense, but then when you look at it from an outside perspective, and you know what the SEC deals with, and you know what stablecoins are, it's like again, I feel like a new division could have been created, because there's been a lot of talk about creating a crypto specific division within the government.
That would probably make a lot more sense.
What do you think about them going after like Celsius and apps and platforms?
Well, first of all, we don't know that they went after Celsius, right? I think that Mashinsky denied it. As far as I'm on top of what's going on there.
Well, it's what it is.
But they did block Coinbase Lend program, right? And we do know that they're not happy with the staking, whether it be through decentralized or centralized finance. And we know the reason for that. They're trying to protect the bond market, at all costs.
It was select states are taking. It's not the SEC in this regards, but it's select states that are going after Celsius. I think Texas, New Jersey, Alabama. There's a few others, I believe. I don't know if you've heard about that, but I figured that there was some relationship between that and what's going on.
Yeah,
instead of because the SEC can pressure state governments to look into things as well and cause pressures for those companies and those entities.
Yeah, well, this is I'm very sorry about it, Rice, but America's going to get left behind. Not going to make it, man. Sorry.
What about the rest of the world?
You guys are going to have to use VPNs to access large swaths of the internet. There's not much else. Just like the Chinese.
I was gonna say, that's just like the Chinese, man. Well, you think it's gonna be better in Israel?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, because they want us to report our holdings, but they haven't moved to actually block. The government hasn't moved to block it. The government has been quite supportive. In Israel, we have more of a situation like they do in Australia, where the government is kind of supportive of it. They don't really care. But the banking industry is cracking down. And I had a long conversation with my credit card provider in 2017 when I was trying to buy Bitcoin with my credit card, and they're like, "Well, you can't." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" And they're like, "Well, because it's cryptocurrencies and it's illicit." I'm like, "So what? It's my money." And they're like, "Well, you can't do that." And I was pretty pissed at them.
Yeah, I don't like when a banking institution that I'm having my money sit in tells me what I can and cannot do with my money. It is
Yeah.
because then it feels like it's not my money, and really, in theory, it's not. I mean, once I
Not
sign it
your
over to
key,
the bank,
not your coin.
yeah, yeah, and I don't even like the idea of holding these debt notes, anyways. I mean, I'm completely fiat poor.
Me
Like
too.
on paper, I am just the poorest thing in the world, which I'm happy with, and I'm constantly losing hard drive or my hardware wallets and like boating accidents and all
Voting
kinds.
accident, sure.
I have the worst luck with my hardware wallets, and I never write down my recovery information.
Oh man.
So I always encourage people to make sure that they're writing down their recovery information. Well, with everything that we talked about, I want to ask you, kind of moving on to the legacy finance system. Um, we see a lot of talk and introductions of digital currencies, CBDCs, and there's a lot of arguments that we are going to be headed into a high or hyperinflationary environment. People like Jack Dorsey's been saying that, and other economists, and that not that Jack Dorsey's an economist.
No,
And
he's not.
and then we had the deflation argument. People like Kathy Wood, Ben Armstrong from BitBoy Crypto. He's thinking that we're going to go into a deflationary environment where they're taking dollars out of circulation, strengthening the dollar. And I've looked at the Fed purchasing power chart of the US dollar and how it's been in a constant downtrend. And I don't see them being able to reverse that with a deflationary event. I think either way, it's going to end up bad. But do you have any thoughts about where we're headed, where we're going? We're kind of in unknown territory in our economic space, and globally, and there's a lot of speculation as to what's going to happen. Do you think we're going into inflation, high inflation, or do you think we could be going into a deflationary period, or are you just paying attention to crypto?
So, I mean, that is a large part of what I focus on because, I mean, I kind of see my role as an analyst as, trying to help people understand crypto within the bigger picture. And, this role, of course, is deteriorating over time as crypto becomes the bigger picture, right? And so yeah, I mean, I'm watching the Fed fairly closely usually, but I think even the noise lately has kind of drowned them out. I know that the Fed had, I think it was yesterday, a big meeting, and I don't even know what they said, honestly. But I think it's interesting to note I think it's really Kathy Wood is the only really notable economist who's expecting deflation to come of all this, because they did print a lot, right? With the COVID, they kind of went nuts on the printer,
Like
money printer.
25% of the money supply, I believe.
It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, you look at the M2, M1, M2 money supply on the Fred website, and you just see like the line going straight up.
And they discontinued it.
Oh, they discontinued what? Oh, they discontinued the money supply.
Yeah, they're discontinuing a lot of stuff on the Federal Reserve website. Like they've discontinued the Basel information. They just stopped giving it. It's just,
oh my God.
And then you've got Jerome Powell and other Fed presidents and other members of the Federal Reserve getting caught doing insider trading.
Yeah.
And all people are worried about talking about is Alec Baldwin. Do what?
He's doing it poorly too. That's the funny part.
Well, it's like they're not trying to hide anything. And all people are talking about is that Brian Laundrie guy and Alec Baldwin.
Right. So
they're not concerned with like the Federal Reserve, who are supposed to technically be public servants, even though they're not public servants, not even government entities.
I think that, yeah, they are. Fed is a public entity, but it's a government entity.
No, it's not a government entity.
Yeah, the Federal Reserve is a branch. It's a branch of the government.
It's private banks.
The Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States.
But it's supposed to be
the president of the Federal Reserve is appointed by the president.
But the United States can't issue its
and
own.
approved by Congress. It's a government entity. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it
I,
was I thought it was a privately owned banking system that just happened to have
I
a
know
contract with the government.
I've done the research. This was an argument within our team, and we came to
So
this understanding
okay.
collectively.
I'd like to talk with you more about that then another time.
So basically, uh, with the amount of money that they've printed, you would expect, and here's the fun part is that the supply, there's disruptions across the supply chain all over the place. Where I grew up in Long Beach is where the goods generally come in from China. At the moment is basically a parking lot. There's ships waiting for miles and miles because apparently they can't get enough free chassis to load the carts onto,
They
or
said
something.
employees. They said they've had a shortage of containers. I've heard
Yeah.
a lack of employees at the facilities to run the cranes. I've heard every single excuse, and then you're seeing some of those crates are getting moldy. By the time they are getting there, and then there's all the conspiracy theory talk about Trojan horses and things that maybe could be in those containers that they don't want to be in our country. It's it's making everybody speculate. But what are your thoughts on why you think that we are seeing all these container ships just sitting there waiting to unload?
Well, as far as I know, there's a bottleneck, and that bottleneck, whatever the cause is COVID, or the side effects of COVID. Not COVID. The pandemic didn't cause the bottleneck, but our reaction to the pandemic caused the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And I think that bottleneck could certainly get worse before it gets any better. And my point is that when you have those limited number of goods and an infinite amount of money, the prices tend to go up, and that does end up translating into inflation. But a lot of those things, and the Fed, they keep using the word transitory, which there have been great arguments over what does that exactly mean, and they like to use those.
Jerome Powell, I think, has just come out. It was either Jerome Powell or another one of the other Fed presidents said that where they thought it was transitory, it's not, and it's going to continue in 2022.
Right. So transitory doesn't have an official definition, right? That's why they're using that word, because it makes them sound smart and in charge, and
right.
Actually it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So in my opinion, they are going to scale back the purchases, but they're still, even though they're scaling back the liquidity. So think about the economy as like a cup, right? And the Federal Reserve is like a hose over here pouring water into the cup, right? Now the cup is overflowing with liquidity, right? That all that money is just like overflowing, and basically the Federal Reserve is still holding the hose on top of the cup and everything, and then they're like, okay, so we're gonna slowly turn off the water now, right? Meaning there's still gonna be water pouring into the overflowing cup, but maybe a little bit less than there was before. And then we're gonna, over the next 12 months, we're gonna close the tap completely, right? So that's kind of what they're saying. But also we know that there's nothing to hold them to that, right? Because they could, in 6 months from now, be like, the hose is halfway off, and then they go like, oh well, we need more liquidity, and they can just put it back on. So there is essentially infinite amount of money in the world, or that can be born into the world at a moment's notice. And
well, that's why I ask: Are we looking at hyperinflation?
What Cathie Wood is saying, is that technology is the deflationary aspect, right? Bitcoin is deflationary, right? So basically, what they're saying is that for example, the crypto market be like that. It could be like a hole in the cup, or at least some sort of outflows from that cup and going into other places, right? And that's basically the deflationary argument is that you know, uh, when I don't know, everybody all of a sudden needs to have an iPad and a car that's going to be a lot more expensive because it has to have computers in it and self-driving and things like that, or they all of a sudden people have smart homes that is going to be a lot more expensive. So that money finds new ways of new destinations. It doesn't just go into tomatoes and cream cheese, but it's actually goes into and doesn't necessarily push the prices of those things up. But now there's new things in the world and new places for that money to go, which essentially makes the cup itself bigger. And that's kind of the deflation argument. And even though I can probably argue both Jack's point and Kathy Wood's point, I don't I don't necessarily know what's going to happen next. I just know that as far as I'm concerned, as far as an investor is concerned, I'm just looking for interesting startups that might end up being really big. And if I find a few dozen of those, and I'm right on only 2 or 3 of them, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. And I definitely wasn't asking you to give me definitives on which direction you think things are going to go.
Not definitives, but really defining. That's all I really can do.
Well, it's I mean, it's interesting, man, because everything that I've learned and everything that I feel like I know is telling me that as long as they keep
So this is where I think
more
that
water in the cup.
I think that we're going to utopia where nobody has to work anymore. And we're already seeing it starting to happen, right? Where with like automation, stuff like that. The robots do it for us, right? So now we can just sit at home and play video games like, Axie Infinity or whatever it is.
I still don't see governments allowing that to take place. There's going to be some kind of weird control factor. If nobody's going to be working, I don't see us getting to be like these.
The governments are going to support it with universal basic income. That's what's going to happen. That's what it's already starting to happen. The governments will facilitate it in the beginning, but we don't really need the governments anymore. Like I believe that just like companies will be replaced by DAOs, governments will be replaced by DAOs as well. It's a bit of a larger time scale, but basically we're headed to a place where we have 3D printers, right? And like Star Trek universe, they don't need money, right? Because they just go over the materializer and it just gives them whatever they want from, like, okay, make me a ham sandwich, boom, ham sandwich right there. Like no need for that. And that's where I think we're going. So, and we're starting to see it happen with like fast food workers or whatever. Like people are starting to wake up and go, why should I be poor? Right? Why should I work for the man and get nothing when I can just like sit at home, do something on my computer, and make a startup or whatever, raise capital because there's plenty of capital.
Or buy some Shiba Inu.
Right, or exactly, and that just throws me for a whole loop because that's that is in itself like this is the future, right? We're seeing like people who can suddenly become millionaires overnight. And even billionaires, and it's all legitimate, right? Like I know Pomp said it was a scam, but it's not a scam. This is the fastest growing financial ecosystem the world has ever seen. Like from
crypto in general, you're talking, right?
Shiba Inu.
Shiba.
Yeah, Shiba, for example. I mean, they've established a community, right? And they've established all of the channels. Now they're getting to work on the coding, right? They'll have their own Shiba decks, right? Their own wallets, their own a whole freaking ecosystem that's going around. It's not going away. The price will crash. That's fine, but the community is strong.
Yeah,
and that'll perpetuate just like Bitcoin did, and it'll perpetuate faster than Bitcoin did. You know why? Because they don't have to waste time explaining to people what the fuck a blockchain is. People already know. The paths have already been forged by the pioneer, Bitcoin. So it's already, it can now progress on a much faster scale. So that's in my mind. This is the future, and Shiba Inu is not going to be the last one either. In yesterday's spaces, we talked about like, musical chairs economy, like trying to figure out which is like the money system that we just keep moving from money to money to money. But it's not. It's more like Doge isn't going away because Shiba got big. Like Elon Musk is still backing Doge, and the Doge community has never been stronger. I think that a little bit of a rivalry is actually kind of good for the space, right? Like a little bit of tribalism and a little bit of like competition, like who can grow faster, who can make the best memes, because like it all is like a meme economy. I think that that's really positive for and growth conducive rather than the other way around. This is how economies work.
Love it, man. Is there anything? I guess the last question I'll ask you: is there any exciting news or projects in the crypto space that you got your eyes on?
I'm an advisor on Electronium, which is a project for financial inclusion. They've got a kind of a Fiverr for crypto, and they've just recently joined the Digital Pound Foundation, which is basically in the UK. They're going to, I believe that the UK is going to actually lead the way in central bank digital currencies because they're actually working with the projects that are on the ground rather than, fighting them.
Yeah.
And rather than, trying to be authoritarian about it, they're actually searching into what's actually good for the citizens, which I think is amazing.
That's good.
I'm an advisor on Luna Global, which is one of the best hot wallets out there, and covering they're sponsoring a lot of the research that we do around cryptocurrencies. And Lunar Crush, I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar with Lunar Crush. And have you seen their new website yet? Or you had a gander?
I have not. What I'll do real quick is
they launched a token, bro. They've got Lunar tokens.
Oh wow!
And yeah, it's
1 second. I was gonna pull
quite cool because they basically have the token as part of the ecosystem, so it has full utility, full functionality. They have a wallet right on the website where you can hold the Lunar tokens, and it's all built on the Zilliqa network, so you can go to ZilSwap, and they're listed already on OKCoin. They launched like last week, yeah, I mean that's as far as I see. Really an amazing project because like Lunar Crush allows you to, there you go.
Social intelligence for crypto.
Exactly. So if we're in the mindset of migrating from top-down governments and corporations to decentralized networks, right? This is where you analyze and measure the networks. You see how big is this network, and if you look at social volume, which is maybe go down to the global metrics. No, up, maybe up a little bit.
Here we go, right here.
Yeah, there you go. So go to social volume. I don't know if it's gonna. Yeah, it's gonna. I don't know. So you need to be holding. You need to sign up and be holding Lunar to get the full data. But I posted the graph to the 2-year social volume, which we just hit a new all-time high today. So. That's
cool. Yeah, I have to look more into
ecosystem. The overall ecosystem is growing at an awesome rate, and I think we're gonna continue. We're gonna make it, man.
Sweet. All right. Anything else?
That's it, man. Sign up for the newsletter. I'm writing in my heart on a regular basis. So quantumeconomics.io or come hit me up on Twitter.
So quantumeconomics.io, then the Twitter is at QE for everyone. And then you can find Mati Greenspan at Mati Greenspan on Twitter. Again, this will all be linked down below. So yeah, man, I really do appreciate your time. If you can bear with me 1 second, I'm going to go ahead and just do my little wrap up and stop recording.
Go for it, man. Go.
Awesome. So again, ladies and gentlemen, check out that first conversation. If you haven't already, make sure you're checking out Mati Greenspan's Quantum Economics. All the links will be down below. If it's your first time watching any of my videos, be sure to check out my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.